Hello, beautiful, vibrant souls. I'm so glad we could join together again today. Today is a brand new day, right? Does your energy feel lighter? Mine does. And I hope that things are going smoothly for you. Of course, we always need to check in with the cards because in the event that we do experience some situations that we struggle with or we have to make sense of or make light of, the cards can be a great tool for working through them. So today's message from the tarot, let's begin here. Uh, this Five of Pentacles. Very interesting because yesterday it was a Five of Cups. It was talking about an emotional disappointment, emotional grief, emotional struggling. But this is more about a tangible loss. This is about more of a material sense. Um, Perhaps we have discovered that we did not get the job that we wanted, or we lost our job, or perhaps some damage to property has occurred, or an accident has resulted in your car being disabled, or an unexpected bill has popped up, or some other expense that's hitting us is a little bit frustrating to deal with, right? As soon as we feel like we're on track with something, as soon as we feel like we're going to be okay, these things show up out of nowhere. It's interesting because recently in my readings, it's been talking a lot about how powerful the new moon is for manifesting, and yet um, it didn't result in me feeling more confident and powerful. It made me focus more on the areas that I was struggling, because then I started to become very self-conscious about the things that I wasn't doing well and the areas that I still needed a little bit of help and a little bit of assistance. Um, and I found that if I obsess over these things like a negative bank account, or a bill, an unexpected cost of repairs and things of that nature, that these things just, there they are, right there, right? Here's something I forgot about and I thought I'd be okay, and now it's hitting me. One of the best tools that I've come to understand for dealing through this is to envision the something very realistic for you occurring. So you lost that job, or you lost out on a promotion, or that unexpected expense. Um, Scratch off lottery ticket, a couple $100 you weren't expecting, right? That's very realistic. Like that can happen. Um, Oop, that was just a mistake in billing. You actually don't owe that. Or oh, here's this that somebody owed you, and all of a sudden they have the money and they were able to pay you, and you weren't even expecting them to give you that, and now you have it and it covers the expenses that you had. So spending some time just visualizing the opposite occurring, like something that's realistic to you, so it's not something out of your grasp. Like, you're not going to tomorrow get some inheritance that you didn't realize was coming. That's not really realistic for most people. And then it comes at like great emotional cost, which, I mean, that may be the case. Like, it may happen. We can't say that it isn't happening for someone around the world right now, but it's not really the type of solutions that we're thinking about. So I like to just kind of focus on little unexpected surprises that can fix a situation. Like, what if your car is actually totaled and you end up getting a new car and you love it so much and it turned out to be a better situation for you? What if you lost that job, but you go and apply for one and you immediately get hired at a job that turns out to be the best job ever? That little lotto ticket scratch off. Those are the things that we like. Now, um, in some situations, when this card pulls up, our Mother of Swords, I instantly get the impression that someone in the reading is feeling this way. But this time, I'm getting that you're dealing with somebody. We're dealing with people that are feeling this way, and it can reflect from you, and you may feel this way about this person because you're reflecting some of those qualities. But I'm getting from spirit that this is actually another person that we have encountered that is making things a little bit frustrating for us. Number one, we have to know that they pay attention to everything, like every little detail, and they probably have a perspective that you don't necessarily have. I'm getting that they have seen and experienced things that you personally have not. So their perspective has come from a different place. You did not consider this. They had a bad day. They may have lashed out. They may have responded or reacted to something that you were not expecting. There's a little bit of frustration here. Okay, so I'm getting, uh, I talked in the last couple of readings about an experience that I was having with somebody that was frustrating me, and I was trying to consider their perspective from the situation and separate myself from it. So I did not react because I felt almost like they wanted my reaction. Today, in my encounter with that individual, I had separated myself from the situation. It was not my issue. But they were carrying on, and you could tell that they really wanted to be the center of attention. And all of a sudden, I hear a voice pip up behind me, and this is a voice of a woman who is older. Um, and she's a very respectable person, or the way that she behaves herself and how she treats people. But I'd never heard her speak in this way. And she was just like, now I want to ask him, this person, and confronts him about his behavior. I was shocked. I honestly didn't expect her to be a person that spoke up about the situation, but you could tell that her experiences with people like this or who have behaved in this way had shifted her perspective on sitting there and not speaking up about it. I wouldn't necessarily agree with the way that she spoke up about it. It could have been done in a different way, but I've also not experienced the things that she has experienced. I don't know what kind of situation she's been in that led her to deal with things in this way, but she did. And she certainly handled it in an effective way. She got her point across. That's the nature of this. You might not necessarily like the way that messages are delivered, but you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know why they're coming in that way. And sometimes it's in your best interest to just listen and receive and then sit down. Now we've also got some more pentacles here. We're going to go ahead and climb up the ladder. Progress is progress, babes. This is a fact of life. And this isn't even about you not crediting yourself. You're just thinking that you should have had it already. No, you've got a lot to go. And that is the reality of it. That is what it's going to be like. You've got some work to do still. You've got some learning to do. You've got some experiences to have. You're not there yet. Now you're in line for it. You're working very hard on it, and things are going in the direction that they need to be going in. They're going quite well. But you know that. You know they're going quite well. You're just being impatient. I think the real issue here is about being impatient. This is not going to affect you negatively. Go ahead and take the advice. It doesn't have to be seasoned to your liking. Good advice is good advice, right? And really recognize that divine timing is at play here. There is a step-by-step process for you getting anything that you deserve and desire. Um, it doesn't mean that there isn't work to be done. That things don't have to happen in the order that they need to happen in. It's going to fumble over my words a little bit. Some messages here for today. A little bit of tough love from our Mother of Swords, right? It's interesting. Healing chaos and guilt. Really interesting combination here. There is a very direct energy. It feels like a very direct energy towards you are not doing yourself any good with that overthinking or the dealing with the way that you're dealing with things. You're not going to be able to go back and change the situation, but I'm getting that you're dealing with the repercussions that somebody else is feeling. They feel guilty. Their behavior is reflectant upon their feelings in this situation. So they feel guilty about this situation. And the way they're behaving in response to it is making you question things. So your overthinking is now adding to this complexity of the situation. Ultimately, that's causing a lot of thoughts to get rustled up in your conscience, where you're digging back through all of these situations that have occurred before and how you dealt with them, and every single one is now being re-scrutinized. All that dust and it gets stirred up, and all of a sudden now we are diving back into this history and going over every single detail of it, every single detail. So this is almost like, it's like a deep clean, right? When we're dealing with healing chaos, we're thinking about in terms of like a storm coming through, and it's just uprooting dead trees, and it's knocking over this, that, and you know, the debris is being cast about. It's really kind of getting to the root of the problem. A lot of us behave in a way and make our choices in a way that is in response to either guilt that we had taken on ourselves over a situation that's occurred, that we blamed ourselves for in some role, whether it was fair or not. We kind of personified that guilt. And Spirit is asking us to relook at the situation. Now, are there situations that you could have handled differently? Sure, absolutely. But when somebody is feeling a certain kind of way and they project these feelings onto you, and then it causes you to start reacting a certain way and reevaluate everything, that's when Spirit has stepped in and said, this is an opportunity for you to take that lesson, to take that understanding, to take that experience and reevaluate it. So let's put things in order. Let's put things in a different perspective. Let's write some ideas down and go over them, and just kind of allow things to settle before we react in some rash way where we're causing more chaos and more pain and more situations to feel guilty from. These are situations that will inhibit us from taking responsibility and doing things differently in the future. Because if we have an excuse, or we have a reason, or we become too, I want to say, attached to that aspect of your personality, like, that can't be your whole story. That's just one little thing. Like, you used to abuse substances, or you struggle with substance abuse. Is that going to be your story for the rest of your life? Is that your whole story? Or is that something that you can recognize as just a piece, a tiny piece of the puzzle that has resulted in you responding and behaving in certain situations a certain way? If you, like me personally, have struggled in the past with substance abuse, and you identify the reasons for this as being something that were beyond your control, you had previously spent a long time blaming yourself for the situation, and then come to realize that it was a combination of things, but then that turned into the blaming of another party. When you come across an individual who's dealing with these types of personal wounds, whether they're dealing with their own substance abuse or whether they're dealing with things like this negatively, they have a tendency to almost align with and see their rationale for all these things, which can ultimately cause you to feel uprooted and have to reevaluate. We don't want to embody the feelings that we're getting from these experiences. Instead, we want to be able to feel the feelings without any judgment. And then as we have processed each feeling, then we can start to kind of organize our thoughts on these things and put a little bit of time and space between them. These aren't things that are meant to be healed in one blast. These things take years and years and years to uncover, and ultimately, I think we'll find that there's almost a seasonal uprooting of experiences that we've had that will cycle back through. And each time you'll become a little bit more aware of what that what changes that had on your life, and ultimately how it's helped you grow and heal from the situation. But these things take time, and just like they come through in a seasonal way, the healing is going to happen in layers as well. So there's no rush. We just take our time and feel what we need to feel, and recognize that it's only just one tiny piece of your puzzle. It's not the whole thing. It's an interesting combination of cards. So just taking a few moments to kind of see what comes to me with them. So with this death and rebirth and innovation, this has been about releasing a lot of experiences, feelings, um, possessions. Even I'm getting some possessions that had to be sold or given up, left behind, things that you had to give back. Getting like some of you had to give back to um, a partner, a family member, if you're separated from them, or you left them because it felt like the right thing to do. There was a lot of personal pain associated with that. Like personally, there was memories and experiences attached to this person, place, or these things. For some of you, it seems like you've had to uh, leave the places where you've lived, or leave an area that you're comfortable with. Seems too like there's some places that you wanted to be able to continue to visit that no longer feel like a place that you feel comfortable. So there's a feeling of separation from these things, and a feeling of grief that comes with it. And we're going to experience that, and we're going to feel those feelings. But I'm getting really strongly that the more important message comes here with this innovation, with the opportunity for this new creation, for this new growth. And then we have this dog spirit, being loyal to what we love. These things were things that we took on in order to establish ourselves as independent, separate from things that we didn't want to be associated with, or we felt like didn't reflect upon us as individuals. But now we're actually finding that there are some things that are calling to us. Like there are some cultural, familial things that are calling to us, but not. If you want to re-envision them, you want to recreate them, you want to make them into something more modern, or you want to utilize these things in a way that feels more connected to you personally, that feels more like a direct expression of you personally. But we're drawing from things that we have history with. We're drawing from things that we feel very connected to, that we feel are very much a part of our upbringing, our past, things that we cherished. I'm getting for some of you, this is has to do with connections with some of your elder familial lines, um, things that you may have walked away from intentionally because you did not want that to become part of your identity. But now realizing that it's actually a something that you do identify with, you just identify it with it in a different way, and perhaps you want to do something to separate it from some aspect of history that didn't resonate with you, and so now you want to kind of recreate the experience. Um, I'm getting images of uh, something in where you if there was a custom in your family, or a tradition, and you tried to separate yourself from this because you had associated it with negative experiences. Those traditions or patterns or things that occurred reminded you of something that was painful, that was devastating to you. Um, and now feel like you're being called because you were like creating your own thing, you were doing your own thing. Getting in some For some of you, this has to do with Christmas, like walking away from certain things that traditions that maybe you had to do with Christmas, but recreating you were recreating experiences around that holiday or some other holiday that you felt were more reflective of who you are. And now you're feeling that you want to experience these things and you want to have these things as a part of your life, but you want to bring a new energy to them. One of the things that popped into my head was the tradition that I used to have with my father. That was, he would take a set and we would go tromping through the woods, through the snow, and uh, we would all take turns sawing down our Christmas tree for the year. And when he passed, it became extremely painful for me to even conceive of doing something like that. And for so many years, I walked away from. Uh, I had concocted all these ideas of why we wouldn't even do that anymore. Like, well, that's not sustainable. We shouldn't be cutting down trees. I don't want a real tree in my house. It's all these reasons why this wasn't something that I would want to participate in anymore. Really, there was like a grief of that tradition being consistent with the memory of my father that was absent, no longer there. Um, but this past Christmas, I considered going and purchasing a small sapling, because then it was like I was still bringing the idea of the smell, the fresh tree in the home, and all the beautiful things, and the way that he really truly enjoyed taking care of and caring for this tree and tending to this tree, as part of our cultural celebration. That's the way that we celebrated Christmas in my family. And I was just like, well, I could bring that part of it back, but I could give it a new touch. I could give it my own personal energy, and still be able to reconnect with something that I felt very strongly about and I cared very deeply for. So apply that to your own situation. This is a situation that you felt very, very connected to. There was some grief or trauma or negative experience associated with it, and you disconnected from it entirely because it was too painful. But now you're being called to find your own way to connect back with that. See what that resonates with for you. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you again for sharing your spiritual healing journey with me. I'm always so grateful for your like, shares, bookmarks, and the comments as well. Please reach out if I can do a personal reading for you. Much love to you on your journey.